Hello everyone, and this is Mark Blanton from the Real South Africa. And today we're going to have a group conversation. So what we have done is brought in some of our travelers from the United States. And then of course we brought some of our fans and friends that are here based in South Africa. So we can have a conversation about the relationship between African Americans and South Africans and Africans in general. So, the first question that I would like to pose goes to you. So now we, in America, we know that from our perspective that Africans don't like African Americans for various reasons. Would you say that's true, or would you say it's not true?
I would say it's complicated.
There we go.
For a person like me, I don't have a problem with African Americans.
Okay.
Some people might, but I think the challenge comes with, it's not easy to say, but
Yeah.
I would say sometimes African Americans come with unrevised stereotypes, American stereotypes, where you've learned a certain thing about Africa, and then you come and you want to make your norm, our norm, in other people's countries. So I think that's the challenge. Other than that, I grew up on African American television.
Yeah.
I used to love Mr. Hightower, Steve Harvey show. So I don't think there's anyone who really intrinsically has a problem with African Americans. If we can get over those cultural barriers and culture shocks, we might realize that we like each other more than we are willing to accept. Last thing is that we need to have more open conversations about how African Americans ended up in America and Africans' hand in that. As uncomfortable as it is, because that's the only way we can have proper reconciliation. I don't think this is an African American problem. I think it's an American problem.
Okay.
Americans have what we now call as American exceptionalism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. South Africans, we also suffer from the same thing on the continent, whereas South Africans, we feel like we are better than the other Africans.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe those two things are interacting when we meet. It's about who is better than the other person,
Okay.
where it's really not, it's not necessary. Yeah.
I think it's an interesting perspective. I would agree with you. I think we definitely do have this sort of energy like, okay, well, I'm coming from here and you're from there, so, maybe I'm here and maybe you're just there. I don't think we do it on purpose. I don't think it's a way of us looking down on Africans in general. It's mostly out of ignorance, because when you are in America, when they talk about Africa, it's just one big country, right? It's not a continent, but you have your Western Africans, you have your Central Africans, you have your Southern Africans, East Africa, then you have North African, which, Arabs and so on and so forth. So if I'm saying, well, I don't like Africans, well, which African did you meet? Was he from Nigeria? Was he an Igbo? Was he a Yoruba? Was he from Congo? Did he even speak English? Maybe he didn't understand you. So there's all of this that we're learning. And as we come, there's a learning process on both sides. We're learning from you guys as well. You guys are learning from us. So, what you say to us, we're going to keep in mind. We wouldn't have thought, well, we're coming here and we have this American thing, because in America, we're oppressed. We're depressed and we're oppressed.
Yeah.
So we're coming here like, hey, brother, sister, we just want to be friends. And you may be thinking, well, if you wanted to be my friend, why didn't you greet me in this way? Or why didn't you have this thing when you came to me? So it's about understanding culture and, where the other person is coming from.
I can say that from the perspective of living in America, growing up in America, we have a very flawed view of Africans, and to include South Africa as well. We put you in this big old pot, and you guys are all the same. I think it's a little bit larger than that, and the reason why I say that is because, you know, obviously we're both Americans. We were indoctrinated in America. We are program proud, as one of our travelers said before. So with that being said, if it's not American, then we think it's inferior in a lot of ways. We really do, and we shouldn't do that. We have a very weak understanding of Africa in general, and our understanding comes from no education on Africa at all, like no education. So we really never, throughout our entire lives, get to a point to where we are like, we understand Africa. I would say to this one right here that what was our education on Africa as a person growing up in America?
Well, being the oldest probably in here, I could go back a little further than a lot of
course.
most of you guys. There wasn't much. When you heard about Africa, it was Africa, not the different parts, not this or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a lot taught curriculum-wise growing up in Africa. The only knowledge you have if you got it on TV or if you heard it on the news or whatever, that's probably where you got your information from. In school-wise, you talking about Africa, I didn't get much of Black history until maybe going to college. I didn't get a lot of, now, like I said, in school, you heard about Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, or
Marcus
like
Garvey,
that.
maybe.
Yes, you heard about that. But you didn't hear much about Africa. You didn't hear much about slavery. I think in school, it was you learned about the Civil War, but you didn't learn about the parts of the Civil War. You learned about the Confederates and things like that, but you didn't learn about why the Civil War, why things like that. You really didn't hear. You didn't hear much about Africa. You really didn't. It wasn't in our history books, and I know it probably wasn't in our kid history books. We got 5, so we know what was taught. It wasn't a lot taught.
Fair enough. Now, one of the things that I wanted to bring up was culture. I think culture is incredible. I live here, obviously in South Africa, and I'm running across the cultures like every day. And we're fortunate enough to be sitting here with some South Africans and of course somebody from Botswana as well who lives in South Africa. And so what I want to bring up to him, which I'm pointing at you, is the culture here. First of all, let's talk about the diversity of the cultures here in South Africa, for one, because obviously you experience it just like I do. And number 2, how important is it in South Africa that culture and the diversity exist?
What I'd say is that when it comes to culture in South Africa, it's very simple and easy to offend someone just by mispronouncing their name. Your name could be Makat, but if you tried and pronounce it without putting any effort in and say Tlhatsi or something else, I'd feel offended that you are not putting in the effort in terms of trying to understand and learn my culture. And South African culture, like you said, is diverse. That's why we refer to as a rainbow nation. And now it's even broader because now we have not just Americans. We have people from Zim, we have people from Nigeria, we have people from Congo. We have most of Africa in South Africa.
True.
So the cultural clash is a lot, So that's why I'm saying it's easy to offend, but it's also easy to learn from one culture and how not to offend that culture if you are willing to. I mean, I speak Tsonga, I speak Venda, I speak all these languages because I was willing to learn and not be offensive to any culture. That's why I can understand Motswana from Mafikeng, Motswana from Pretoria. They'll speak different, but they have the same heritage as me. You know, the stigma of saying one culture is superior than the other is there. But slowly and surely, through people and these platforms that we have, these conversations that we have, we are slowly opening that gap to say, look, you can learn from African Americans as much as you can learn from Tsonga or Venda or Pedi or whatever. It's all about being open-minded to learn and learn and learn and learn, so that we don't offend each other. You know, I could easily say African Americans are spoiled. I could easily say it because of what the media portrays. You know, that for instance, if Kevin Hart comes to South Africa, a South African artist or comedian, Trevor Noah, he's big now in America, but if he was still here and Kevin Hart here, Kevin Hart will have a bigger change room than Trevor Noah, who is South African. You know, because Kevin Hart be like, no, I'm not bringing it, you know. Because I feel that he has the right to have a bigger space. He's superior than the big artist of South Africa, you know. And we would give him that because of who we are. You know?
True.
We would give him that because of who we are. Not that we're saying he's superior. No, we are saying we have Ubuntu. We will cater for you. That's South Africa for you, and that's our culture.
With moving on with the Kevin Hart example, I would say yes, Ubuntu is important in South Africa and across Africa, but I mean, in all honesty, this has to do with money, and it has to do with the value of the American dollar and how it's valued in comparison to everything else. So if you walk in with your American dollars, obviously you'll get better treatment. You'll get more Ubuntu.
And we like Ubuntu. We do.
I want to go back to South Africans and African Americans and how we can help each other in dealing with our exceptionalismness. Is that okay? How do you reconcile with the fact that you grow up in this certain kind of a country, for example, South Africa. The reason why South Africa is as developed as it is because of racial oppression. So, as a so-called born free, I am in a way enjoying the fruits of development by racial oppression, which is the same thing with America. America developed as a result of racial oppression.
Correct.
And African Americans, you are enjoying the privilege of a country that developed as a result of racial oppression. So with these two things, how do we help one another? How do I sit comfortably as a South African and say I'm enjoying myself in South Africa, but the reason why our countries are the way they are is because of the past that we have. And what does that mean to be part of an oppressed group but be part of a privileged culture? So yeah, I think if we can help each other in that issue, we can have more better relations as Africans and African Americans.
Okay, fair enough. And I will say I do agree with you on both ends. I think you put it very well. I would also want to go back to what you were saying is the fact that South Africa is very diverse. You know, as African Americans that I am, but living in South Africa, people look at South Africa like everybody is just black. They're just black people, and that's not true. They're actually different people, and that's what you was hitting on when you said that you can offend somebody by saying their name is saying their name wrong or not even making the attempt, and so forth. And trust, I live here. I've been challenged enough times trying to say the names, and I got like these names right, and then somebody comes with a whole. It gets to be a little difficult, and I got to think about it, and I have to try, and they will wait. They will wait for you to get it right. But let's talk about these interactions with African Americans. So, Jenny, have you had any interactions with African Americans?
Yes, I have. It's mostly because of the type of job that I do or
Sure.
the industry that I am. Yeah, I have.
Okay.
They are friendly people for me. They are very welcoming. So they are willing to contribute to our economy and create jobs and benefit the country. So yes.
Amen.
So you would say it would be a good marriage?
Yes, definitely. With what they bringing on board, the dollar, he said it.
Sure.
So yeah.
Okay, and then with the culture that's here, not the culture, but just the infrastructure that's here, I personally believe that we can fit in very well. We in the U.S. we fight for things like this. We march with and die for hundreds of years to have what you guys have in the last 28 years.
Yes.
We literally have. So I'm going to swing it over here. Do you have a response to Jenny's question?
I do. I agree completely with Jen that we have a lot to offer, and we also, expect a lot of exchange. I think that it's difficult for some of us because we do come from a place where we think we have learned it all. We are as the gentleman said, we maybe have the top level of understanding and universities and that kind of thing. So we do come from a certain place sometimes of superiority. But I don't think that is always the case, especially with those who make the effort to come all the way here. For instance, myself and my husband, we've come with nothing but gratitude to the country for allowing us in, first of all, because you don't have to.
No, for it.
Not really. But allowing us in and then allowing us to share what we know and what we've learned from our oppressors and from the best of what they've had to offer us. And I think that we have a tendency to gravitate towards people who are also considered the best. And even if you don't have that high mindset and that superiority complex, you do have offerings that you've been allowed to benefit from. And I think that we can take those offerings that you've had access to and that we've had access to in our country and make the best of it for the people here.
I want to get your impressions of the several times that you've been here so far, your impressions of South Africa, just as a tourist.
Me being here for the third time has been, when we come here, it's almost like a sense of peace, peace and pride, and it gives us the opportunity to see another side, or the other side, or the real South Africa. Because all the stuff that we heard when we was in the States, that it was not the place to be. Because when I vacation, I'm one of them resort girls. I want to be on the beach. I just want to lay back, and I stay in that little bubble, and people take care of me and they give me what I want. But when I came here, it was like a whole new experience. It wasn't like vacation. It was because of all the beautiful things I've seen, but it was more or less of the people. The hospitality, the people that we see, the things that we've done, the people we've met and came back and met again, it's almost like now, it's like, we're not going on vacation, we're going home. We're going back to see our friends. We're going back to see our people and to mingle. When I was in that resort, I might say hi to the person that's sitting beside me, but not to interact the way that we interact when we come here. So I want to come here and I want to learn. Like you say, when somebody say my name, I'm like, okay, please don't mess this up. Because I don't want to offend. I don't want to disrespect. I want to, if I'm supposed to greet you in curtsy, tell me that. I want to learn because I don't want to offend anyone. I want to be sociable to all my sisters down, even though I will stole her purse. But coming here is not like a vacation. Because this is our third time. When we couldn't come last year, because when COVID first got out,
Yeah.
oh man, we was like, we was sick. And so, and then this year around, we're going. I don't care. We're going anyway. So just to be here, just feel like, whew, we back. So that's how I feel coming here. I'm not a tourist anymore. I don't know how to get around, but I don't feel like I'm a tourist. This is our third trip.
No, and you shouldn't feel that way, because I know when I was in my third trip back in 10 years ago, I felt like this was home. I did. So I would go back to the U.S. and I'm like, we had a business, we were doing well, and we had friends and nice cars and things like that. And I was ready to go the moment that I landed back in Dulles Airport in D.C. somewhere. And I was ready to leave, so I would do my time. I would work hard. We would work very hard just so I can get back on the plane. And I had those exact same experiences. There were people that, because we was coming so often, people actually was like, "Did you leave?" Because we would see the same people again, and they were like, "No, I'm back." Oh, and then we would just, we would get welcomed, and we hung out, and it was wonderful. So I do understand exactly how you feel. So hopefully, would you, obviously you would agree that those that are sitting at home and maybe even watching this program, would you tell them they should come to South Africa on a visit?
They certainly should come on a visit, because the travesty would be not to even try, not to even see it once.
Yeah.
All the stuff that you see, they say about this continent, this country. We've been bamboozled. It's nothing like they would imagine. And then when they do get here, because we have brought people on our second and third visit, they're like, "Oh wow, I didn't know."
Yeah.
And those were the ones like, "No, why?" And now they get here and they be like, "Wow." And now they feel like us. Now they're going, "Are y'all still going this way?" Yeah, we're out.
Good stuff. Well, I will say that we do, as far as our company here in South Africa, we take a lot of phone calls. We talk to a lot of people, and they're very apprehensive because of what we talked about earlier, the history, the exceptionalism, and all the issues. But I just don't think those. I would say that I think those issues go away once you get on the ground. Once you get here, you land at O.R. Tambo International Airport, and you walk around, and then I say it takes maybe 2 days at the most, and eventually you're like what was I so afraid of? Right. Then you start thinking, well, what have I been missing my entire life? What have I been missing? You've been here a week or so. First time. So tell the people that's watching this program your experience.
Well, my first experience was that when I got here, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if I was going to see a hut, Yeah. So as I was looking out the window as we were driving through, and I'm like, this looks like any city I've ever gone through, and the idea of seeing all the traditional things that I would see at home was there, but more. So in my mindset, I decided that I needed to become a student and an ambassador at the same time so that I can get the full experience instead of trying to bring my own ideas and expectations and wanting to learn and understand, as you say, how do you say certain things? It's like, did I hear it right? Can I say it? And I just wanted to say each day, what can I learn and experience new? What more can I find to enjoy and take back with me? So more people can come over with a real open mindset.
Okay.
I think the first time we got here, it was just overwhelming, just going from place to place, eating. The food was good, and it seemed like you're just looking for a new dish.
I know.
You're looking for something different, and every time we do, so you're looking down the menu. I had but it's a lot that you can choose from. And the food, like I said, it's just, to me, it's fresh. I'm not a big carrot or certain vegetables. Man, I tore those carrots. I'm not,
absolutely.
So the way they prepare the food, the spices, I mean, it is unreal. I really enjoy the food here.
Okay.
I think too much. When I get back, I have to hit the gym again. But it is enjoyable. It really is.
Excellent, excellent. Now you mentioned a traditional dessert. Tell them about this traditional dessert.
Is it the malva?
The malva pudding.
The malva pudding.
Or malva.
Malva, that's right.
Malva pudding.
It is a unassuming little mound of cake that they put some ice cream beside. And when you slice into it, you assume that it's just going to be another type of pound cake or something moist. But when you put it in your mouth, it's like an explosion of excitement. And then you forget the ice cream is sitting there and you say, well, let me just try it just in case it makes it. And it just adds to the whole experience. You do not eat it quickly. You savor it.
Don't dance.
Yes, you got to put it on different areas of your tongue. Enjoy it. And every time we go out to eat, I want to try a different dessert, but I'm saying, why? I want another. And it's just amazing.
Yeah, because there's other desserts out there.
Yes, there is, but
but this one's yours.
This one's mine.
Okay, fair enough. Now, also too, I want to swing it over here again. I want to chat with you guys because you guys are one of our travelers. You came, we took care of you, we sorted you out, as we say, here in South Africa. So, granted, you haven't been here long. I know you were anticipating coming here some time ago, but now you're here. So, what was your experience when you guys landed and you got off the plane and you got to your hotel? Go ahead and complete that for me.
So when we first got here, as soon as we got off the plane, we were greeted with a lovely South African lady, and she just looked at us and said, "Welcome. You have a beautiful family. Come on in and we'll sort you. What do you need to get? You're looking for your bags. Let's get in this line." And she told us where to go, and it was a bit of a maze. So we got a little turned around, and she straightened us out. She's like, you guys are home. Just feel at home. And we really did. We immediately felt like we were around our people. And we saw the lady, we gave her our passports with the immigration office, and I was so tentative because Dr. Latasha and I have been talking about how it may be a problem if we're just moving here all of a sudden without everything, in place. And she was just so friendly, and she didn't really, she looked at the paperwork. They didn't really, find anything that was out of place. They didn't scrutinize. And I'm a teacher, so I'm going to try to make sure every, T is crossed and every I is dotted. So I did try to make sure all of that was in place, and she just talked to us about where we were going, and she's like, make sure you don't miss Limpopo and don't miss this, and and go to Durban if you can. And we were like, okay, sure, that. And our defenses just really left, and we were just really relaxed, and we really started to feel at home. So we're very thankful for that.
And everybody was so helpful. Even some of the ladies, they came out and helped. We had a lot of bags.
I overpacked.
A lot of bags. Because we had to pack up an entire villa before we came and sell things and get rid of things. We just didn't have a choice.
Yes.
So we had to bring all of these bags, but they just came. They got us. They got the carts. They had everything set for us.
It was hilarious. The first thing she said though, she's like, "Sister, are all these yours?" I said, "Yes." She said, "This is too much. It's too much."
Absolutely.
I said, "I know, it's my fault." She said, "But we can sort you out. If they can't fit it all in the van that you guys brought for us, we'll just get another taxi to follow you." I said, "Thank you so much." So everything that they said was always to relax and to get us feeling more and more comfortable. And we're like, we may never leave. We may never.
We'll see, And everything did fit in the van.
She did not have to call another taxi. No. So I was like, see?
Yeah, everything. For me, that was a good sign.
Okay. Yeah, so as we say here, welcome to South Africa.
Thank you.
That's it. So now, we do have someone here who's a South African that spent some time in the U.S. as well. She's sitting beside me. And of course, she's a proper South African. I think that's the right term, right?
Probably.
Yeah. She's proper. So, since you are here now, but you've been there, can you give me? I mean, give me your. I'm being very vague, but some impressions of America, and then of course your home country, South Africa, and how do you feel? What do you feel that African Americans should try to aspire to, repatriate in South Africa?
Okay, I would say, so having been to America, well, my first experience was, you from South Africa? Do you have a giraffe in the backyard? So that was like, wow, okay, welcome to America. It was an interesting experience for me, but over the time, I would say, like Jen said, I had a lot of good experices. I felt Americans were very open-minded. You could strike a conversation in the flight. On the tramway, anyway, literally, and have a very distant conversation. And yes, in South Africa, like you said, anybody can talk to you, but there's that element of, like how he said, people sort of grade you, like, okay, who are you, what do you have, where are you from, etc., etc. As opposed to in America, it's like, oh, they'll take interest, like, okay, what's your story, and I have this to share. So I would say my experience in America was pretty much the best. I had the best times.
Of course.
And having explored a few countries around the globe, America still took the trophy for me as a cherry on top. But then I would come back and say, there is no place like the motherland.
Yeah.
Like, you just have not arrived if you have not been to Africa. Africa is a gem.
Usually in America, you have a greeting, hello, is so superficial. You get in a conversation with an African American, if you have time, you're going to go through some conversation. It's going to be deep. It's going to be rich.
Yeah.
They want to get all the information or share all the information they can within that time. Because on our ride to go to the safari, we got a lot. We went through a whole bunch of stuff. We ran out of time, so I could appreciate that. It's not just superficial.
So I'm gonna swing it over here because he has a question. What do you have?
I would first say it's nice to hear good feedback about your country. You guys talking about the people and the places you go to. As a South African, you forget, you get used to it. But yeah, we are good people, so welcome. I would say my question is, what sort of a relationship do African Americans want to have with Africa?
That's a really good question.
You said what type of relationship?
Yeah.
The type of relationship we had earlier, where we can communicate and we can talk and we can share, and I love talking to younger people because I'm still learning from them. And when I was picking your brains in there talking, and I was telling you that we have kids your age. So when you were saying how do you do certain things, I'm like, that's down our alley because we dealt with 5 of them at 5 different phases. So and then learning, saying, you know what, your progress was no different than our 5 kids, or your perspective is no different than our 5 kids. And when we were talking about generation and how you break away this way from from parents and everything else, so that's what I want. I want to know more about you and what drives you and where your ideas come from and your history. That's what I want. I want to be friends. I want to be brothers and sisters. I want to get deep into knowing all about that. I want to be where you can count on me and I can count on you and I can be honest with you, transparent, no matter what it is. You ask me a question, I want to be free enough to share it with you. That's what I want. I want to be able, if I come here, to be able to be part of the community. I want to be able to share with the community. I want to be able to do those things where now I feel like I'm part of the community.
My question to you guys and whoever else that's watching, especially to our South African government when it comes to our immigration stuff. We in that field and we see the red tape that's there for people that are willing and wanting to migrate to South Africa. So my question to you guys would be, what would you like our government to do for you as African Americans to have an easier path in terms of acquiring long-term visas for South Africa, so that when they see this, they can actually see that you guys are interested in being in South Africa, and I mean, we need the dollar.
Fair enough, fair enough.
What you just said, make it easier for us.
Yeah.
You know, make the process, take some of the red tapes out, take some of the, the long wait time, and, make that a lot easier. Take some, like I said, take some of the long process out of it to shorten it. Instead of making it, you have to travel from here to there, however that may be. We're looking to go through that process, and we don't want to take forever to, like, we're ready to go tomorrow or whatever it is. So we want it shortened, but make sure it's legit and legal, but shorten it up some so we don't have to go through that red tape.
Yeah, I mean, because I understand that there's a process. Of course, there's process and rules. And I understand they want to vet the people that are coming into their country, allowed into their country. But, if you say, give me these 10 items, and I bring you these 10 items, and you say, oh, you missed the dot, let's start all over, that kind of, you get some people will be like, well, I'm done. They don't want us over there. But if you can just say, this is what you need to come here, and we provide you those documents, and we cross the I's and dotted I, T's and the I's.
You did all the stuff.
Did all the stuff. That would be helpful.
Do you have anything to add to the?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a question.
Sure.
I mean, you live here.
Mm-hmm.
How have you integrated into South African society as an American? How has that been? The work, living conditions. I don't know if you have kids in schools and all of those things.
I came here several times. It wasn't just okay. I came overnight. Here I am. I spent some time here. We thought Cape Town was the place to be. Stayed there 2 months. Cape Town was beautiful. It was very nice, but I needed to be in this. So I actually came here. Now I'm going to say my assimilation. I didn't resist. I didn't. I left pretty much everything I knew at customs. How we do things, the foods that I ate, the things I would say yes to and no to. I left them all at customs. I said, you know what? They're going to teach me a lot. I'm going to learn a lot. And so I'm giggling because it's been fun. It's literally been fun, because for me, my experience is different, and let me tell you why. Because I realize I speak like this. Because I speak like this, no matter if I'm in Venda, if I'm in Mpumalanga, if I'm in Durban, if I'm in Joburg, and everywhere in between, the Eastern Cape, I get I get invited to that culture, like off the top. I get invited, and they're happy to meet me, and I'm happy to meet them, and they always impart something to me. So I'm fortunate as an African American because I don't have to worry about that pecking order thing that you kind of mentioned earlier. I get to come in, and no matter where I go, even if I go in a colored village in Eastern Cape, which I did, they look at you funny at first, but then they're like, oh, okay. And then you start talking, and they say, oh, he's from America. And then they want to talk to you about their culture. What I found the most, no matter where I go, if I'm down in a village or if I'm in a township, you can name them, Attersville, Soweto, you name it. Guguletu, down in the Western Cape, they always want to talk to you about it. It always comes back to culture. There's always some food involved, but it's always some food, some good food, waffle pudding, homemade. It's crazy. Yeah, but it's always get invited to these cultures. So with that being said, I personally feel like I'm part of it. I do, I really do. When somebody says something about South Africa, it makes me upset, especially if you don't know. Like for example, I'm just gonna say this. When we did the lockdown in March, we did a very hard lockdown. And so now people are saying, hey, well, South Africa variant and stuff. I'm like, well, hold on. we all suffer. I mean, I'm looking at people in townships that I know don't have any means, you know, but they're down there with their mask on, and they're just doing what the president of the Republic of South Africa said. So it's been a very nice integration for me. I lived in other countries before, but I was under the flag of the U.S. government, and I still didn't have this type of integration. So I do feel like driving on the left side of the road, on the right side of the car, it's proper. It feels proper.